In the UFO research field, a growing number of experts are making claims that secret government projects at the Groom Lake facility are somehow related to technology brought here from another planet. Whether or not this incredible claim is true, one thing seems certain. Witnesses have seen some kind of aircraft at Groom Lake that appear to be something not made by human designers. Have they actually seen UFOs at Area 51? What about photographs? Videotapes? What are these strange lights in the sky? Are there reliable eyewitness reports of alien spacecraft, even alien beings, at Area 51? The saga of Area 51 neither begins nor ends with the Bob Lazar story. In point of fact, strange sightings in this area of the Nevada desert were being reported before Bob Lazar was even born. But it was the general awareness created by the interview with George Knapp on a Las Vegas TV station that seemed to focus public attention on the area. Prior to that series of interviews, Area 51 was just a designation on old military maps where atomic bombs were touched off, in the interest of national security, of course. But in 1955, all of that changed. In that year, Lockheed desperately needed someplace to test their latest super-secret aircraft, the U-2 spy plane. They turned to one of their chief test pilots, a man by the name of Tony LeVere, to help them find a secluded spot within enough land to accommodate a very long runway. And with that, Area 51 became America's most secret new aircraft testing facility. But what else was going on there? The official U.S. government statement concerning Area 51 reads,
"Neither the Air Force nor the Department of Defense owns or operates any location known as Area 51.
Strictly speaking, that's true. And even though it was built by the CIA and is used exclusively, so far as anyone knows, for government-related projects, it is operated by a private company and guarded by the Wackenhut private security force hired by that company. For over 30 years, except for a couple of ranchers, people generally ignored Rachel, Nevada, and the nearby Groom Lake facility. But there were other things going on that would give Bob Lazar's story instant credibility. A 1950 FBI memo from Agent Guy Hottle reported that he had been told by an Air Force investigator that 3 flying saucers had been recovered in the New Mexico desert. After all, the alien craft Lazar claimed he worked on had to come from someplace. So even before the complex at Area 51 was built, the seeds of one of the nation's most troublesome mysteries were already being planted. Today, hundreds of UFO watchers regularly drive out into the Nevada desert across public land and make their way up to the top of Whiteside Mountain or Freedom Ridge to try and get a glimpse of what they believe to be a captured vehicle from another world.
In one of our expeditions to Area 51, one of our affiliate members succeeded in taking rather remarkable footage of what appears to be a disc-shaped object over Groom Lake itself. It didn't behave like any conventional aircraft I've ever seen, no sound whatsoever. But the remarkable thing is that in other occasions we have seen the zigzag maneuvering of this type of aircraft, sometimes almost a 75-degree turn and sudden descension and ascension.
Could this really be a spacecraft from another planet that fell into human hands?
A consistent story that comes up from a lot of workers is that a craft was brought here around 1953 and that actual live aliens were brought here about that same time.
Well, the Russians have been taking pictures of Area 51 for many years. Stalin had an intense interest in UFOs, and one of the things he wanted to know about was Roswell. And the conclusion they came up with was that Roswell was real, that something really did crash there, that it wasn't a weather balloon, and it wasn't anything of earthly origin. They didn't know exactly where it came from, but they knew it wasn't ours and it wasn't theirs, and this was something that was of monumental importance that needed to be studied.
Of course, to this point, these claims are still just hearsay and rumor without more evidence to support them. Does such proof exist?
All the stories that float around this place are as much a mystery to workers as they are to us.
Do we know where all these stories of captured UFOs originated? And how did these craft get to Area 51?
Folks who run Area 51 won't admit that it exists. There was a federal lawsuit that was just tossed out in which they just wanted to know the name of the base, and they fought it tooth and nail and now don't have to reveal the name of it.
If you work in a secret area like this, like Area 51, your work is highly compartmentalized. You come to work on jets from Las Vegas with the window shades down. Upon arrival at Groom Lake, you're bussed in buses with blacked out windows directly to your workplace. You see nothing more than the hangar or the few buildings that you happen to work in.
That's the interesting dichotomy. The Russians can fly over it and take pictures. In fact, we've signed an open skies treaty that allows dozens of other nations to fly over and take all the pictures they want. But we, the people who foot the bills for the place, aren't supposed to know about it.
In 1988, a Russian satellite took a remarkable photograph over Area 51. Notice the object highlighted at the end of the runway. It's positioned at the same position as if it were about to take off.
Recently, several new photographs of Area 51 were released on the Internet, perhaps in recognition of the fact that in spite of repeated denials, the public demand for an explanation of the mystery of Area 51 continues to grow every day.
This year we've seen two sets of images of Area 51 that were released. The first came from a Russian spy satellite that can see things as small as 6 feet across. The second came from a U.S. commercial satellite, and it can see things as small as 3 feet across. This gives us unprecedented clarity and detail of the activities at Area 51, and this is from a base that the U.S. government claims still does not exist.
The detail in these new satellite photographs is indeed startling, but the images raise more questions. Mainly, what activity? Note that in none of these photographs is there any indication of active personnel. If something is going on there, where is it taking place? Until now, Bob Lazar has been the only eyewitness to come forward and describe any kind of work being done on alien technology in Area 51. However, in an exclusive interview with Encounters with the Unexplained, this man, David Adair, a respected and internationally recognized expert in space technology, agreed to speak out publicly for the first time about his own incredible experience at Area 51.
I built a rocket when I was 17 years old after building many rockets to get to this one that I built, and it was about 10 feet tall and it weighed about a ton, and the engine design was somewhat unique. It was an EFMC engine, electromagnetic fusion containment engine. There was a lot of help involved. There was congressional help, there was help from the military, and once we had the thing completed, we took it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then it was flown from there to White Sands, New Mexico. And then on June 20th, 1971, we launched this missile. The rocket was extremely fast, and it left out of the area, and a man named Arthur Rudolph was there who gave me coordinates to land it at a place called Groom Lake, Nevada. The rocket soft impacts up there with parachutes, and we fly from White Sands to Groom Lake, and when we get there, there are twin 10,000-foot runways, and it's a considerable Air Force base there. Once we land, when we got to the center hangar, we stopped, and then the entire floor of the hangar dropped out from under us, and it was an elevator. And we went down about 200 feet, and when we flushed out with the floor down there, the huge underground facility has a kind of a rainbow-type cascade-looking roof, and the walls cantered down on the sides, and on each side you have big work bays and workshops and offices. So we rode past a lot of these workshops, and then we got down a good ways, and then we stopped to a work bay that was on our left, and they got out, and the man opened the doors, and the doors slid back, and we went in this room where there was lights everywhere, but there was no shadows, kind of like a painter's booth. And they had this something sitting on a huge metal table, and it was covered up, and they pushed a button and the cables raised this big cover, and to my surprise, it's another EMFC engine, but it's about the size of a Greyhound bus. My engine and that one worked similarly, but the difference is mine was like a Model T and this thing was more like a Lamborghini. It's incredibly sophisticated. I knew that this engine, it couldn't have been made in our technology level. This thing, as big as it was, there was no wires and there was no screws, no rivets, no bolts, no weld lines, no seams, nothing. It looked like the entire thing grew. When you touch the engine, that's where it gets even better. And wherever your skin touches it, these really pretty swirl patterns would radiate from your skin through the hull, the metal, and it would descend out maybe 5-6 feet in all directions. So it was really interesting. It was reacting to touch. I just finally had enough. I knew that this engine didn't belong to them, and it couldn't the way the thing was constructed. We had no capabilities at that time. Even today, we don't have that kind of technology. So I'm really angry. They're angry. They tell me to get down. So I'm coming down off the engine, and everywhere I'm touching the engine, it's no longer the blue-white swirls. It's now fiery red. Looks like orange-red colors shooting through the hull. And after seeing this, as I'm coming down, I stop, and I'm so amazed by this and watching it. As I calmed down, it went back slowly to the bluish white swirls. That's when I realized that this engine it's alive. It's picking up on not heat radiation but thought waves. This thing is a symbiotic engine. It's capable of linking with the occupants of a craft.
They've had aircraft, you know, that like saucer-shaped craft that crash into the ground because they don't understand what makes them tick. They're actually using some humans in a telepathic form through, like the remote viewing project that they had, which was actually connected with Area 51, so that they could try and figure out how these craft were controlled, because it was all done with thought.
If this sounds too far-fetched, let me bring you to current events. In Princeton University right now, there's a professor there at Peer Labs named Dr. Robert John, who's working with the military on the X-29 fighter. And what he's doing is building a buffer system where the aircraft and the pilot, when he puts his helmet on, has leads stuck to his skull. And as he thinks, the plane reacts. And that is a symbiotic relationship between the pilot and the aircraft. When I finally got down off the engine and I got on the floor and I turned around and looked back at it, I realized that this engine was extraterrestrial in origin. It was outside of our technology of building something like that. And I realized I was standing on top of a huge piece of evidence everybody's looking for. And that made me more angry because I realized that they were holding back on all this stuff. And no one has the right to do that.
The encounter ended with David being summarily and rudely locked up until General Curtis LeMay, then the commander of the Strategic Air Command, came to personally escort him home.
Well, after LeMay picked me up and we were flying home, he told me that they weren't through with me. They'll be back. He'll try to cover up as much as he can to help me out, but he said they will return in your life.
The general was right. While still in his high school graduation cap and gown, David Adair was personally handed his draft notice. He would spend the next 8 years in the United States Navy. But in the meantime, the young rocket scientist had seen and touched what he still believes is a symbiotic, perhaps even biological engine of extraterrestrial origin. Could it be that the mysterious craft seen over Area 51 were not recovered at UFO crash sites? Is it possible that our government has been working secretly with an alien civilization? Are we on friendly terms with beings from another planetary system? Just in case you're wondering whether America's best-known secret base is still above the law and presumably still up to its neck in secret projects, a presidential determination dated September 25, 1998 should put everyone's mind at ease. In this document, President Clinton exempted the United States Air Force operating location near Groom Lake, Nevada, from any federal, state, interstate, or local hazardous or solid waste laws that might require disclosure of classified information. The letter went on to state that disclosure would be harmful to national security. But from whom are we keeping the nation secure? No one argues the fact that if it's true, Robert Lazar's story that he worked on a full-scale version of this alien craft is probably the most important news story of the last 100 years.